the people we helped were the poor. And how we did that directly was we started a soup kitchen. So we collected food to give to food pantries, but we also had a direct service ministry called the Soup Kitchen. And different churches signed up to host the Soup Kitchen one day a week. So we had the Lutheran Church on Monday. We had the Episcopal Church on Saturday. We had the Christian Church on Tuesday. So different days of the week were handled by different churches. Even the Jewish community decided to give the Christians a break and do theirs on Sunday. And so that helped us gain momentum also, because people could see we were directly helping the needy. I remember going in the van and collecting day-old fried chicken from Popeye's Fried Chicken and day-old donuts from Krispy Kreme. Any kind of food that was surplus was, and still good to eat, we took it. We had refrigerators that we begged, borrowed. We didn't steal anything. And we used those for the perishable food items. From those humble beginnings, we then moved to a real warehouse on 15th Street in 1984. And then we built our first warehouse in 1988. That was a wonderful step forward. And it was after that that we were granted admission to the National Food Bank Network. That national network had an expansion plan, and Augusta was not on that plan. So for there to be a food bank here was one thing, but to have them accept it as part of their overall network, it really did require a miracle. The fact that the food bank existed and was growing was nothing short of a miracle that no one expected. Augusta is not a food distribution or manufacturing center. It's not a center for trucking and transportation. So the odds were stacked against the success of the food bank from the beginning. But this is what God wanted, and he was not to be stopped. More and more people were supporting us. The organization grew. And then the big change came too when counties in South Carolina, because Augusta is on the border with South Carolina, they wanted to access the food, and they wanted to have a branch of our food bank in South Carolina. So we agreed to open one, but their request was that we change our name from Greater Augusta Food Bank to a non-geographical name. And so we had a little contest with the staff and the board, and my secretary, Barbara Harshman, came up with the name Golden Harvest Food Bank. And that was the Holy Spirit for sure. I could see golden harvest, that whatever people would give was precious in the sight of God. No matter how small or great, it was precious in the sight of God because it was given to his lowly ones, his anoim in Hebrew, the lowly ones, the poor, who were precious in God's sight, who are precious in God's sight. And God provides for the poor, and he does it through those he's picked to feed the poor and support the poor, his people. And that part of the call of being God's people is that they take care of the needy. We had a quote from Leviticus on our stationery that said, they commanded the Hebrew people not to harvest their fields to the very edge, or to pick up grapes that had fallen, but to leave them for the poor and the alien in the land. So there should be an intentionality on the part of God's people to provide for those in need. And this was the message that I brought to the church. In fact, when I was discerning whether God was calling me to be the food bank's first director, this was the word that I got. I said to the Lord, are you in this food bank idea or not? And very clearly the Lord said to me, not audibly, but in this very strong thought, I am raising up the food bank to be a catalyst for my church, to wake up my church to its call to feed the hungry and to help the poor. That for too long, my church has imagined it was rich in its money in the bank, number of buildings, and people showing up for worship on Sunday. But its riches lie in the good news of my son, Jesus Christ. And I'm calling my church to share the good news with the poor. And when I heard that, that's what clinched my decision to go ahead and accept the job of the director of the food bank. And that is the message that I kept repeating and speaking to every church that I could get invited to over the 31 years that I was at the food bank. I retired in July of 2013 after 31 years at the food bank. And at that time, it had a distribution of 14 million pounds a year and a budget of $3 million a year and a staff of over 50. And there were 3 warehouse locations and the soup kitchen in downtown Augusta. Now the food bank is in the capable hands of my successor once removed. I trained my successor, Travis McNeil, got a miraculous word that he was to take my place. I trained him for 3 years, and then I stepped out, and he took over for 8 years, and then he moved on to a nonprofit in Columbia, South Carolina, and now the current director, Amy Brightman, has been in for 3 years. She took over January 1st of 2020, right in the middle of the COVID crisis. And anyone taking over a nonprofit at that particular time has to be made of steel and be a person of deep faith. And Amy is both of those. So I am thrilled to look back now on my child of Golden Harvest Food Bank, and I'm so happy about the enormous amount of good that the food bank has done and is doing. I serve as the chairman of the board of directors of the food bank's endowment fund. We believe that not only should people contribute to the daily operation of the food bank, but to leave a legacy for the future, to ensure that people who are hungry in our area of Georgia and South Carolina will continue to be fed. And so an endowment is very important. So for all of this, I'm grateful. And I'm mostly grateful because there's thanksgiving that rises up to God as the poor are seated around tables that have food on them. They're eating not from empty plates, but plates that are full. And their thanksgiving is what's rising up as a sweet offering to God. Thanks be to God.